Hey everybody, this is a quiz study guide. We'll be having a quiz in 2 weeks, but I wanted to give you all the study guide ahead of time so you know what we're going to go over. I don't think it's going to be anything we didn't go over in class, but I just want to lay it all out for you. I hope everybody is staying inside and is healthy and safe. This video will be available for you, but I will also post the Google Slides document, so if you want to go over this at your own pace, you're welcome to. So let's get started with our review. From our monotype section, we can remember a direct trace. So a direct trace is a monotype by placing a dry sheet of paper down on an inked plate and then drawing or applying pressure to the back of the paper to create a mark. I think this was one of the first processes that we started with. We can have two examples here. On the left, we actually have a reductive process monotype that we're going to cover in just a second, but on the right, we can see a direct trace monotype. We can see that the paper was placed down on the plate, the plate margins are here, and then we can see these kind of fuzzy lines are created from putting pressure, either drawing with a pencil or drawing with any other pointed object on the back of the paper, again, dry paper, and pulling that paper up. A reductive process, a monotype process characterized by wiping away, drawing into, or removing ink from a plate. You are effectively reducing the amount of ink on the plate. Pretty straightforward. Remember, reductive, we're reducing the amount of ink we have on our plate. An additive process is a monotype process characterized by painting or applying ink to a plate. Again, you are adding ink to a plate. Pretty straightforward. And we'll look at a couple of examples of these later on. A ghost, a monotype that utilizes a matrix that has already been run through the press at least once before and has had most or some of the ink removed. A collagraph, a monotype process characterized by putting an object through the press to act as a stencil or texture in order to form different surface levels, embossments, and textures. It's important to remember that most of these processes occur simultaneously within a print, so we might have a print that has a collagraph and a ghost, or has a ghost and a reductive process and an additive process. They're not mutually exclusive, and we usually use them in combination to create our prints. We can see in these examples on the left, we have a pretty straightforward collagraph. We have some grass, a mesh fabric, and then some other small pieces that were laid down on our inked plate and put through the press. And then when we remove that paper, those objects act as both a stencil and a texture. And then on the right, we have that same print, or that same plate rather, we have the ghost of it. So it's been run through the press again after having had an initial layer of ink removed, having had, these objects removed, this grass, this fabric. It looks like there was some magnesium carbonate on the plate, or a couple of these other objects remain, so that's why we have these bright white stenciled areas. So again, multiple processes occurring simultaneously on the plate. On the left, we have a collagraph. We also have an additive process. So the artist went in and painted these lines in. So again, additive on an inked plate. We have magnesium, these splotchy areas. And then with the collagraph, we have this flower in the center and then also these star shapes that were added on as stencils. On the right, we have a collagraph with ghost and reductive process. So what that means is that this plate was run through the press once. The object was removed. In this case, it's that mesh fabric again. We have the original ghost from it down here. It looks like it was actually placed on the plate again up here. And then we have a reductive process where the artist went through and wiped out these big sections here. And I think we can see a really faint line here as well where they drew out a section maybe with a pencil. So now we move on to our modifiers. We have magnesium carbonate, which is a white powder used to stiffen ink that is too loose or oily. You saw in the collagraph and in the monotypes that a lot of times we use it as a stenciling tool or use that powder because it does absorb so much ink to block out certain areas. We always add that to our ink when it's too greasy to kind of give it some more body and reduce some glossiness. We have our plate oil next, a medium used to dilute and lower the viscosity of ink that is too thick or dry. So this is the opposite problem of magnesium carbonate. This is when our ink is too stiff, too thick, and we need to loosen it up a little bit, give it some legs, make it easier to spread around. That's why we would add our plate oil, because all of our inks are oil-based. Dry point is our next technique, an intaglio technique, where the image is created by drawing or scratching into the plate using an etching needle or scribe to create lines. And we have an example of an etching needle on the left. You guys can all remember we used these when drawing your portraits. During printing, this burr will hold ink as the surface around it cannot be wiped clean. The burr prints as a soft or fuzzy line. So when we're printing a dry point, when we're inking it, we don't use a brayer. We use a piece of cardboard or something with an edge so we can wipe the plate, coat it in ink, and then go back in and remove that ink gradually through scraping with the cardboard and then finishing by wiping with the tarlatan. And we have on the left and the right 2 examples of dry point. The one on the left we can see some pretty clear lines. We have some areas of dark value and heavy value, and those areas again are being created by layering lines, scratching, and cross-hatching to build up texture. On the right, this image has a little bit less value. We can see more of the lines a little bit clearly, but again, we see that all of our marks are made by individual scratching with the scribe or the etching needle. So our brayer, pretty simple, a roller used to spread ink and apply it to a plate. Again, we've called them rollers throughout the class. That's fine. Brayer is just the technical term that we want to remember. Then we have our blotters. Blotters are the heavyweight absorbent paper sheets used to remove excess water from soaked paper. So after we put our paper in the bath to soak for, 15-20 minutes, we'll pull it out, we'll let it drip dry for a little bit, and then we'll place it in between those blotters, use our rolling pin, and kind of, push the water out of it. We want our paper to be wet when we're printing, but we don't want it to be soaking wet or dripping. That's the proper, we're doing this to achieve the proper level of moisture. So when we go to print our print, it comes out nice and clean. So next we have our tarlatan. Our tarlatan is a loosely woven starched cloth used for wiping ink on a dry point plate. We can remember that we kind of had to squeeze those tarlatans out a little bit before wiping them for dry point. That's because there's sometimes too much starch in them. We want to clear that starch out so we can pick up more ink. And again, with the dry point, we're not rolling ink across the plate. We're applying it with a soft edge, like a cardboard chip, and then gradually removing it through either scraping or wiping with tarlatan. Newsprint. Newsprint is our non-archival paper used for test prints and protecting the press bed from stray ink. And then we have our registration guide. Our registration guide is a reusable sheet that a plate and paper are placed on to achieve even and consistent margins for an edition of prints. We use a registration guide so that way every time our prints come out the same size with the same margins on each side, and generally are a little bit more square so we don't have to trim as much at the end. And it keeps our press bed clean. An edition is a set of prints usually made from the same matrix and numbered as a group. That's our goal whenever we're going to do make a print. We want to get our best print so we can use that as our guide and then make an edition from that perfect print. Okay, true or false? When working on a dry point plate, ink is applied by rolling the plate with a brayer. I think we know by now that that is false. Ink is wiped or spread across the plate with a flat edge and then gradually wiped away. Name the 3 items/terms you include when signing a print. So we can remember that the 3 items we need are our name, the date, a title is optional, and then the edition number. We can see in this print up in the left, this is Victor Mira, Parallel Muse, 1979. That's our full print. And then on the right, we have our edition number. That's going to be right here. He does have a title and the year right there. And then his signature, which is going to be right there. So that's it. If you guys have any questions, obviously email me. I'm here today, and you can always text me too. I will make this available online as a video and as slides, so that way you can review it in your own time if we went a little too fast. The quiz is again in 2 weeks, so it's not next week. It's going to be, what day is that? It's going to be May 1st. Today you have your 2 drawings due, and then next week you have your research paper due. Again, if you have any questions in the meantime, please let me know, and I hope that you're all staying safe and healthy as much as you can right now.